It's Batman, you son of a bitch. Absolute Batman, specifically. It's the new Absolute Batman annual #1. I guess that's a thing. I don't know how they're doing their titles, how they make them work. I don't know. Artwork by Daniel Warren Johnson, who I've discussed a little bit before. I don't think I have anything of his printed of his work. I might have something that I forgot about. Well, I don't think I do. Now he's up there with him. James Harren and Nick Klein are, for me, like the top 3, like top tier comic book artists working today. Ryan Otley's good as well. And so I saw snippets of this being posted online here and there, little bits and pieces of Daniel Warren Soren, and I really like how it looked. I don't really care about Batman as comics. I like the art, some of it. I've spoken about this a bunch before. Like, I have a shitload of Batman comics, but I don't really care about Batman. It just happens to be that a lot of the artists I like work on Batman comics at some point, and so you get some cool looking Batman comics. And as proven, as evidenced by John Warren, the Batman comic. So I saw little bits and pieces posted online, liked how it looked. I had no real intention of picking this comic book up. I figured it's just nice to see the artwork now and then on Instagram or whatever. But then I found out this is the comic in which he does that to a white supremacist, and he fights a bunch of, as sort of shown on the cover, where Batman fucks up a bunch of white supremacists. And I figured it's probably worth getting the comic just for that, just to check that out, because that's cool. I'm pro that message and actions, just so we're clear, in case I haven't made that abundantly clear previously. And it's a cool message to see in a comic current day. It's relevant to today, and it's Daniel Warren's art, which is really, really cool. And his art is really cool in this comic. I've even read this comic. Can you believe I actually read a comic? I can't remember the last comic I read. I just look at the pictures and I put them on a shelf and I never look at them again, unless they're Slain or Dread, and then I look at them 100 million times and nothing else. But I read this and it's really good. It's written by Daniel Warren Johnson. I think that's his name. Daniel Warren Johnson. That's a mouthful. Like my cock. And apparently this is selling like a shitload of copies, which is sort of like understandable, I think, because of the art, but also because of the message and because of what it is. I think people are like, yeah, we will support that. Have our money, give us that shit. Because I went into the shop to buy this, and there was like 10, 12 copies on the shelf. There just never is that. Even a brand new comic, there's maybe 3 or 4 copies on the shelf. But this, I can only assume it's sold out right away. And then they got a load of new copies in to be like, okay, we've got more. Look, we've got plenty. Come and buy it here. You can buy it here. So that's good to see. It's good to see that in a comic in general, but especially with the message that this one has, especially when the artwork's really fucking good. How's that for a fucking double-page spread? Take that, you fucking arm. You fucking white power saluting idiot arm. White power crack. Fucked. It's not just, yeah, fuck you, take that, you son of a bitch, which obviously is, but the drawing is great. That would be a cool drawing in a sketchbook or something. That would just look cool. But as a comic book panel /page/double page spread, it's so good. The movement of that, the sturdiness of, and the sort of immediacy and strength of this arm just going straight that way. Everything in Batman is pointing just fucking that way, into his arm just going bosh, clearly fucked. I guess this is his is that the tibia and fibia in the arm, or is that the leg? Whatever. Those arms, those bones in the arm, you can see them there, and then that's the that one. I don't know. I should know, but I don't know the names of all the bones and shit. It's clearly broken very badly, where he's holding his hand and then fucking him. But then also the movement in this twat, this guy here, just all like just perfectly. And then also the movement through his body up into his neck, up into his face, and the facial expression, the lines of inking used to express all of that is really, really brilliant. It's such a good, like, that would be a cool panel in any comic, but and it's very poignant in terms of the story. It's like the colouring is as well, you know, lots of deep dark blues and purples to denote nighttime, red which denotes, you know, like danger and badness happening, and then you've got white pout, and then this is what we say to these people: fuck you. Just fucking fuck you. And these are the panels that have been shared online. This one of the bat knee going into this guy's face. Just fucking... And I love that the skin of his face is like crumpled up as it's just been pushed inwards from his knee, just going... And the angle, the body just being sort of tossed aside. So I will go over the story briefly in case you are unaware. This will have spoilers in it. If you want to read this, then fuck off and buy it and read it, or look online. It's probably available for free somewhere. Shows a young Bruce in his home with his dad, and his dad explaining why there's extremists bombing things. Saying, what will you do when it comes to that? And there's the bat, the demon, surrounded by fire, and the I guess the designed for the in-universe version of these particular white supremacists. Very obvious Nazi tones, but it's on fire, and that's what we like to see. I did mention some time ago, I was talking about how I'd like Batman a lot more if he was like from a working class background. The fact that he's a billionaire just like gives a sickly taste in my mouth whenever I hear about him doing literally anything, however good it is. It's just like, ugh, just fuck off. But it seems, someone did mention, I think someone left a comment saying the new Absolute Batman is more like that, and it seems to be the case where if this is young Bruce at home, he's just in like a regular house with his dad, with like a regular looking fucking house. So that seems to be the case, which is very, very cool to see. And I think that's the idea of the Absolute series, is kind of reinventing the characters, the heroes and their stories and such. Then it shows this encampment just outside of town. Homeless people, you can assume immigrants and, you know, less well-off people, unhoused and such. And there's a priest helping out the families and such, this parent with their child. This is obviously Bruce driving by, checking things out, and he pops into a store. Is it a gun store? Oh, it's a pawn shop. And he buys a shitload of guns and ammo from this guy. Shitload of fucking guns and flamethrower and shit. As requested, explosives, modified rubber bullets, bean bags, the works. Non-lethal, less lethal, that'll work, says Bruce. But then, as he's finalising the deal, packing it into his truck, he hears a kerfuffle and sees a bunch of cunts in pig masks fucking with the immigrant family from before, the parent and their child in the hat, taking their bags, pushing them to the ground. "What's that language you're spitting at us, huh? Don't you know where you are? This town belongs to us. You're the stranger here." See, that's what they all sound like. "You're the one who doesn't belong. Time to grow up, kid. Get ready for a beating." And then, pow! Fucking Bruce, hiding behind the wall as he sees this going on, jumps in, twats that one in the face. Twat again, twat. It's my current word of the moment. Love that. I put this on my Instagram story with a caption. Just this. I clipped this. I took a photo of it and put it on my saying, "Gaze into the fist of Bruce," because it looks very similar to the "Gaze into the fist of Dread" panel from Judge Dredd punching Judge Fear through the face. Because his thing is gaze into the face of fear, and he opens his helmet and scary shit pops out. And then Dredd, unfazed, goes, "Gaze into the fist of Dredd." Pah! And it gives me those vibes. I like the pig masks because it sort of unifies them as hiding their identities. There's something unhuman about them. They just look sort of vile and evil. Not because of them being pigs per se, but just the pig head human body just looks sort of badness, doesn't it? Also, pigs ties to police, bad, so fucks them up. Bro, you just made a big mistake. We'll see. So I'm not going to read the comic to you because, well, I could, but I won't. But just the art is really good. I mean, I've spoken about the details, but like the art in general, I like the use of like smaller panels here, where this is like getting the story aspect sort of out of the way. Not exactly, but kind of just tell just little bits in little panels, and then bigger panels for the action and such. Good use of colours in this one as well. Lots of sort of like a toned down colours in general, almost like it's brown washed all the way through, with just these sort of pops here and there denoting action moments. But then the pawn shop owner clouts Bruce around the back of the head with a wrench. He's obviously part of their club. And then DJ shows up, he's got the tattoo on his neck of the fucking symbol. But then the priest is like, "No, leave him alone, don't." As they're all stomping Bruce in. And then the big Nazi guy's like, "Let's get out of here, boys." And they all fuck off. And then the priest has got Bruce bandaged up at his house, because the hospital was quite far away, he said. And then Bruce sees a photo in the priest's room. This photo here. Oh, you see it at the end. Sorry, that's spoilers. That's Bruce's dad, and that's the priest. They were friends in the resistance because they're having guns pointed at them. They are resisting the oppressors, as it were. And then Bruce goes off because the supremacists are planning to raid and, I guess, deal with this homeless encampment that we saw earlier on. So the police are there and they say, "DJ, you know we can't let you do this." And then they laugh, and then the police put on masks. See, the police are part of it. They're part of the problem. They're in on it. Look up stats on how many white supremacists are in police forces. Go and look that up now, and then you'll get that if you're not already aware. "Do you see us? Do you see me?" As they're just mercilessly beating and torturing these helpless, unhoused people. These people who have nothing, and then they're punching down on them. White pat crack! Get fucked. The Batman shows up, does his business. Get it, Kush! His spiked boots that Batman has in that guy's jaw. It looks like he's going onto the inside of his head as well. Yeah, the way Mr. Warren Johnson draws like flesh and stuff. It's like his head and neck is wrapping around his boot as it's forcing its way into him. Shoot this. No! He picks up the policeman, fucking slams him down, pile driver style. His head just collapsed into his neck, into his body. We love to see that. Also twisted around because this is his back and that's his eye, so I guess it's like folded back on itself, which is brutal. But hey, if you're gonna be a white supremacist, then fuck you, bitch. Also, so I don't know if there's any more to it, but I've seen on Daniel Warren Johnson's Instagram there's a bunch of drawings of like superheroes wrestling, because he has an affinity, I guess, for wrestling. And some of those drawings are really, really good. Again, I don't know if they're for anything, or if they're printed anywhere, or if they're whatever, but they're really, really good. And so you can see that here with the pile driver, the knee to the face. Oh, but it's not just that. So he throws 3 batarangs into this guy's face, and then his knee, just pushing them in. There's some argument over like whether Batman now kills people. Maybe he does. I think this is one of those moments where it's like, these aren't just people robbing a store or something. They're not pulling off a bank heist and he's like, oh, I'll tie you up and take you to the proper authorities. They are scum that are purposefully destroying families and beating and torturing and killing, vulnerable people. Like, fuck them. Fuck them in the face. Get away. This is a nice detail. The slide of the gun going backwards as he shoots, and that's something I've done plenty in the past, and it's only really recently I've noticed whenever you see somebody drawing a gun firing, when the gun is like this and it's just got the muzzle flare, it's not necessarily wrong, but something about it now when I look at it kind of looks incorrect. And you realise, because you're trying to capture that moment that the gun's going off, but the moment the gun goes off, the slide comes back, so as the blast goes off and the shell ejects, that is that moment. I've done that one time, at least one time, in a Gun Viking comic, and I got praised for it by some of the people who read the comic, and I'm glad for that. I might have done it a couple of times, but it's just one of those details. It's like, you want to draw the gun looking like a gun because guns are cool, but if you're going to draw it properly firing, if it's a handgun like that, you've got to draw the slide going back with the barrel and sort of kind of poking out and the shell ejecting. It's just added detail that you've got to like think about and put effort into, it's a pain in the arse, obviously, but it does give that extra sort of level of like, fucking yeah, drawing, which is cool. It's what we like to see. Good panels. I love this one being an open panel. A good amount of space given to the action shots as well. That's great. As Batman's sort of like, not even triumphantly, but just like fucking walking away from having broken this guy's arm. He's just like, yeah, who's next? And then boots that guy in the face, grabs the policeman, smashes him down, throws some batarangs into this guy's eyes, knees him in the face. Lets the kid, the scared little kid with the hat from before, lets him run away. This guy, he shoots him. I don't know if the bullet just zips past him. The sound effect there is zip. so I think maybe it just zips past him. And then just the arch of that punch, Batman's knee here and his sort of body and face there, just fucking up and down into his face. And the eye there just sort of like just looks pained. And then boom, 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 as he's just beating him, just wailing on him. Fist, 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 blood splashing up into his face. And again, the priest, stop. This won't fix it, it won't. Please, this isn't the way. See, the priest, he's a man of God. He's there to protect people. If it's Bruce getting beaten up, if it's these guys getting beaten up, it's like, you can't just do that. This isn't the way. This is my way, says Batman. One reason I never really bothered picking up any of the Absolute Batman comics, because I've seen quite a few different artists draw him, and some of the art looks cool, but like I was a bit thrown off by like the fact that he's got an axe and these like shoulder spiked pauldron like armor pieces, which isn't bad, but it makes it look like he's almost a medieval Batman, which I thought he was at first when I first started seeing art of him. I thought it was like a new medieval oldie-timey Batman. But I don't know if the spiked shoulder pads and the axe really fit into a modern day setting. I mean, it doesn't not work. It's just it stands out to me as a separate detail. It's like, oh, something a bit different. Which again, it's not bad. I like the pouches. I like the pouches on his belt, here as well as he's walking away. Good pouch work from Mr. Warren Johnson. And then they're all escaping to somewhere, a house. Oh, like some fucking white supremacist headquarters with the banner hanging up. And Bruce drives a giant fucking... I don't even know what that is. Some giant digger, some land mover through their building. Does he get the keys for that from the guy? Because the guy, he throws the batarangs into his eyes and knees him in the face. He's got a key ring, and you don't see him pick it up. But then you see him holding it here, so he's obviously got the keys. And then he's here. Oh, and he puts the key in. So, yeah, I guess he gets the keys for that. So that's their own vehicle, their own giant fucking land mover industrial vehicle. He drives it through the building. That's a crazy, crazy drawing. Like the detail on that vehicle, the cabin there, the stair set going up the front of it and all the railings and stuff, the size of the tyres. Not just that, but drawing that driving through a fucking building, all the rubble and stuff, little patches of dusts and smoke blowing up, people just getting tossed around and run over, the door collapsing there. That's ridiculous, absolutely fucking bonkers. Fantastic sound effects as well, as I said recently. Digital onomatopoeia added into comics can really take away from it. So this is a really good example of like the hand drawn lettering, the blam 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 in the background there, the thock there, the pow, another one done in like Tipex pen, I guess, just pow, and the boo of the flamethrower as he torches them. So he's come into their building, driven the vehicle through there. The gun, again, the slide going back, good attention to detail. And then he's just fucking them up with his axe, I guess. Yeah, this guy's chopped his arm a bit there. Again, great movement. The body of the Batman there just lent. That's how much effort he's putting into that swing, which is sort of the sound effect kind of feeds into the motion line of it, which is cool. But he's just leaning his whole weight into that swing as he takes the fuckers out. And this guy backed against the wall, click, 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 click from his gun as he's trying to shoot, but nothing's happening. Get back, man! Can't do this! We're human beings! Check. He drops his axe. No. 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 You're roaches. The only one way to deal with those. He torches the fuck out of him. Ah! Burning the banner. Look, it's like that bit there. That's a good thing to do, which I don't think I've ever done in a comic, where you start it with a vision of something that's going to come later on. It's a typical thing to do in movies, in comics, in art and literature in general. Whenever you're telling a story, and it can be really good and really effective. I mean, if nothing else, there's the cliche of like, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got into this crazy situation. Which it almost is, but it's better than that because I said so. And then the priest shows up again with a med pack. It hurts. I know, son. Stay still. Why? You have your way, and I have mine. Still, the priest being the good Samaritan, and that's the true sign of like a true man of God, is you help people, you give service, you give of yourself. And something I do like is that they don't make it entirely senseless and heartless, because then Batman's thinking about like his dad and what his dad said, and you did a lot of cool stuff when you were younger, Dad. I don't know about that. You made a difference. You did something. I'm going to do that too. I'm going to be just like you. And there you see, that's his dad and the priest. But Bruce, I know your nature. I know who you are deep down. You're strong. You have a strong and compassionate heart. All you have to do is be yourself, no matter what you do. And then he's like doubled over, like maybe crying. I don't know, but he sees the blood on his hands, and he's not the person he thought he was or wants to be, but he thinks he's doing good. He's trying to do good. He knows he's getting rid of bad people, but that just leaves him at the base of this cat fucking machine. I'll always be proud of you. And Daniel Warren Johnson, writer and artist, which is quite something. So that's cool. And then there's a different Batman story with art by James Harren, writer and artist of another Batman story in this comic. What? I didn't believe that when I picked this up, when I was looking through it in the shop. And this was another case where I'd seen, because I follow James Harren on Instagram, so I'd seen he's posted a couple of drawings from this, and I was like, oh cool, a James Harren Batman. That's not the first time I've seen it, but that's cool. It's cool to see. Oh, I like it. And some of the drawings looked really, really fucking cool. And I was like, oh, that might be a cool comic to pick up. If I happen to see it, I might grab a hold of it. I wasn't really planning to like search it up or anything. But it turns out it's in right with two of the fucking top comic book artists working today that I mentioned. Now, if there was a third one with Nick Klein, that would be the icing on the cake, of course. It might be asking a bit much, I don't know, but it's fucking James Harren Batman comic. This one's very different, a little bit more obscure, maybe. This gang of folks all wearing skull masks, going to a house, raiding it for supplies and weapons, putting oil into pans on the stove, tying knives to sticks. And there's a big guy draped in a cloak with a skull mask, and a slightly smaller guy whose skull mask is a little bit broken. And apparently it's the smaller guy's dad's house. So they're in his dad's house in a church getting supplies. But then his dad shows up and he's like, "What have you done now, Victor?" And he's got a shotgun. And they're on top of the church tower and there's stuff going down. And then the man shows up. This guy. That man. Fuckers on the roof are sort of dealt with. The bat there. Look at that. Fucking look at that. Tendrils. His cape almost forming tentacles into the night sky as the lightning strikes atop the church tower. That's one of the drawings I saw on Instagram. I was just like, that's cool. That's something slightly different in a Batman comic. A lot of people play with his cape in a few different ways. But that's a really, really interesting, cool one to see. And just all throughout, it's very... I love James Harren's shapes, the shapes he draws his people in. So they've got like a clunkiness to them that I like. And, you know, his ink work is just brilliant. Sort of loose and full of energy. And that's what I appreciate about this comic in general is all throughout. It feels a lot looser and a lot more energetic than a lot of typical like Marvel style like comic book art comics. It feels a lot less sort of stringent, like it's making its own set of rules for like how comic book art should be. Like the looseness in some of the lines and the shading and the hatching and stuff. Where there is hatching, there's not much of it, but yeah, there's a lot of a much freer feel to it, a lot of energy in the artwork compared to sort of like, you know, standard how to draw comics the Marvel way kind of comics. And we like to see that, and that's why I like Daniel Warren Johnson's art, James Harren's art, Nick Klein's art. I feel like Nick Klein is a lot more meticulous, but still has that energy to it. And James Harren almost feels like he's doodling on every page. Because especially in some of the earlier pages, where there's like very little to almost no detail in some of these characters, they're just sort of like person shapes wearing clothing shapes. But that's all you need. But then you get like a character like when his dad comes out of the room with the shotgun. It's very basic in terms of sort of shapes and details and stuff, but it has shape and it has character to that shape, and the details that are there, though maybe minimal, have and add to the character of the character. Love this. So they're in the dark, I guess, you know, snooping around this church that the guy lives in. Blues, purples, greys, dull sort of greens and turquoises. Very nighttime coded kind of colours, which is really, really cool. And then the sudden, very sudden orange and red panel as this guy clunks the other guy's dad around the head with a hammer, I think. This is the pose coming out from the panel and in the arm way back with the hammer. Maybe he's ready to strike rather than having just struck. I'm not sure. Oh no, yeah, he has. He's just hit him with the hammer. The arm out, the hammer, the shape of the hammer, the use of like black shadow here and there is really, really good, with the hammer going into the next panel to show it really sort of coming out of the panel as they grab the gun off of him. The big guy draped in a cloak or whatever, almost just like an amorphous shape, barely looks human or anything. And these are like masks that they're wearing, they don't have skull heads, but that adds to the non-humanness of him. And then they hear something. This main guy, Victor, looks worried. That's the upstairs window. He's inside. That's the only way to get upstairs or down. That's the only hallway to the stairs. They're looking down this dark hallway to the bottom of the stair set, knowing that at any moment, realistically, the Batman has to come down there if he's going to get to them. So that guy's got the shotgun off of his dad, so he's the one who's going to go check it out. So they are raiding the bar. I guess there's a panel in the floor under which there's a bunch of guns. An Uzi. I love an Uzi. The big guy is snorting something, some kind of powder. Crafted by reincarnated Hyperborean witches, synthesized from the spinal cords of frightened orphans. At least that's what they said online. That's quite funny. I need my special drug. It's this, it's this, it's that, it's that. Well, that's what they said anyway. Snort. And now he's like, his eyes are glowing green and he's drooling from his mask. Grenades, Dad? The neighbourhood's gone downhill. So he's wondering why his dad has like an Uzi and grenades. Damn, you one of us, you old sumbitch. I like the way he's written sumbitch as well. Sumbitch. Oil boiling in the pans. So there, I assumed from the start that was the plan with the oil in the pans, was to use as a weapon, which they did in medieval times, hot oil and such. It's so quiet, I don't hear him. Shh. There's this moment of quiet before, well, they just don't know what's happening. The guy with the shotgun pokes his head out from the hallway door from before. There's the upside down shadow of the bat. And then one of these cape tendrils comes down, wraps around his head. What? Whump! And I fucking love this panel. Looking down the hallway, the rectangle of the door, or the, leading into the hallway, and the guy just being suddenly lifted up to the ceiling of that doorway. Whump! The straight line of the edge of the doorway. One of his shoes has come off, the shotgun's dropped, and he's just gone poof, where his head's been grabbed and pulled upwards, and he's just gone Kuh! And then no, as he's clawing, literally his fingernails are coming off as he's trying to claw his way to freedom, being dragged across the ceiling, lifted up, and his skull mask falls down. That guy got, and that's a fantastic little bit of storytelling for that whole scene as well. Again, to go from the quietness of them just like, what the fuck's going on? I don't know. Shh. It's like the scene in Equilibrium where I think it's after they've discovered sort of what's going on, and he kicks a door down, he bursts into a room, he jumps at the door, and then the door slides into the room and he rides on the door, and then he shoots out the lights or something and it's in complete darkness, and they're all firing their guns, but then nothing happens and it's just dark, and then after a moment you hear the guards like, where is he? Did we get him? I don't know. Shut up. Shh. And then there's a moment of silence, and then his guns go off as he shoots all of them with his gun carter shit. It's those moments, and this is a moment similar to that, which I really appreciate. And then the sudden whomp, no, and then a couple more guys just getting tossed around. His cape tentacles doing their thing, grabbing guys, throwing them to the floor, which is something I was a bit confused about. Or kind of, is at first I thought this was just his cape blowing in the wind or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then it turns out they're actually controllable, like prehensile cape tentacle things, which is cool. Fucking people up. Then the big guy throws his cape off. You burned me once, you some bitch! And his skin's all fucked. Evidently, Batman screwed with him in the past and left him with scars. Look at that! 2 Uzis. It's like Gun Viking or something. Suck holy flame. Those high velocity rounds, get down! That's another great panel. His leg as well, his outstretched leg holding him back, like hooking him into, anchoring him into the ground as these high velocity rounds just blast out of these 2 Uzis. And again, high velocity, so the bullet holes they're making are just enormous, fucking up this kitchen, the cabinets and everything. And you can see Batman's cape going upwards as Batman is obviously leaping out of the way. As you see him there, leaping. I don't know how high the ceiling is there, but another great little pose here of the guy shooting upwards. And then click, click. And the little detail of the red heated up barrels of the guns. And then the boot of Batman on its way down. Another cool, like, panel. But he's got him by the neck. They have a little fight, a little tussle. Another broken arm. I like that he's got his... Batman's holding his arm, and he's got his legs around his shoulder and neck, and then uses that leverage to crack his arm. And I guess because this guy's taken a load of drugs, he's viewing Batman as this weird green and blue demon, and there's shapes and colours surrounding him. And he's like, what are you? Because he's not seeing clearly. And Batman's just like, damn. Grab the oil. As they go to throw oil on him, I think Batman gets thrown and he knocks one of them and the oil lands on the guys. Fucks them up. And then he uses his bat tentacle, his bat cape tentacle, to grab the oil and fling it at the big guy. It burns him up real nice. Maybe that's how he burned him before. Drop the damn pot and run, Sarah. Good Batman face. That's a good panel. I think I've done that a couple of times, where you get one person right in the foreground and then other stuff happening in the background. That's a good, quite a cinematic sort of layout to do. And then the big guy has the 2 grenades, as shown earlier. Suns burn to make light and cast out the dark. Pulls the pins out of the grenades. Batman just fucking whoosh. It's on his way out, he's leaving, and then boom! Grenades go off. Batman, at least somewhat, maybe protected the dad, as the dad protected the son, but got his face quite blown up or bruised or whatever. And then under the imagery of the Madonna holding the baby Christ, the son holding his dad, as Batman flies off into the night sky, I guess. The eyes there. Batman's eyes. It's not made out of eyes, but it does have 2 of them. Yeah, another great... My James Harren collection, like, because Simon Bisley, I've got just Lobo comics and Judge Dredd comics and Slaying, just a whole load of shit, just Simon Bisley. And then other than Ultra Mega, I've got a bunch of James Harren comics in other comics, like in a BPRD omnibus, in an Image Comics sampler thing, in a black and white Batman. There's like a few pages of James Harren here and there, and so this is another one to add to that collection. Which is almost annoying, but you know, it's kind of cool to just see James Harren around in places, because his art is just really, really cool. I feel like similar to the more recent Ultra Mega comics, they feel a little bit less detailed, but I think that's completely fair, where when he's first doing Ultra Mega, he's putting everything he can into it to, like, maybe he felt he had to, or that's just where he was mentally, emotionally, artistically, whatever. He was just, every little fucking detail is there. But then as the comic went on into, its second volume and everything, he relaxed a bit and he's like, let's just tell the story. Let's draw the pictures. Let's not worry about every tiny fucking little detail. And I think this is a good example of that as well, where details that are necessary are there. There's good detail in these gunshots, even in this arm. Good detail. And there's details where they need to be, but then, like, there was earlier on with the people coming into the building. These are just like people shapes. There's detail in like the cloak and stuff, and in the tux or whatever. But yeah, sort of, it's good, but it does not remotely take away from the energy of the artwork of the comic as a whole, and that's the important part, and that's what we like to see. That's what we like to see. I was initially planning to do a whole episode about guns. It was all guns. It was gonna be all guns. This episode was gonna be all guns, and I was gonna like tie in the comic to it. But I think after some time of like thinking about it, I realised I don't know if I have that much to say about guns. Two of the main things I was going to say was, one was going to be about the whole drawing the slide coming back when drawing it firing. And the other thing I had to say was that I like Uzis. And so I said both of those things, and so I don't really need to do a whole episode about guns, because if that's all I have to say, then it's done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. So I think it's quite cool that like I ended up just spending all my time looking at the comic, because it was good. It was good. I had a good time. It's good as well for me to like get a comic like this. And to, I can sit and read it, I can sit and look through it, but when I'm discussing it, looking at it and sort of like analysing it and discussing it with you all, kind of, I feel like I get more out of it, because I'm like sort of paying attention to more things than I might do if I were just on my own, kind of, if that makes sense. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'm just lying about that. In this case, I'm not. I think I enjoyed looking through it more deeply just now, having looked at it with you all. So that was nice. So if I've got the count right, next week's episode will be the 333rd episode, which, as mentioned, the plan, we'll see how it goes in practice, but the plan is to do a 333 minute long episode to celebrate the 333rd episode, which if calculated correctly, is 5 hours and 33 minutes of podcast episode that I need to come up with. Well, I don't need to. I don't have to do shit, but that's the plan, and that's what we're going with. So I want to talk a little bit about it. I want to talk a little bit about it here and now, because I don't want to really spend time during the 333rd episode of the podcast talking about the fact that it's the 333rd episode of the podcast. Because it's not that that seems redundant necessarily, but it's just, you know, I want to spend the 333rd episode of the podcast enjoying the fact that it's the 333rd episode of the podcast, rather than talking about the fact that it's the 333rd episode of the podcast. Does that make sense? Yeah? Do you get what I mean? Not that I've got much to say about it. It's just very interesting. You know? Partly I do worry that, like, 5.5 hours is a long time to... Because I've done 12 hours. In case any of you are unaware, I made a 12-hour podcast episode. It's currently, and even shortly after it was first put out, it was, I believe it was my most viewed podcast episode, which I believe it still is to this day, which is cool. I think a large part of that is like the spectacle of it. A lot of people clicking on it going, really? 12 hours? And then they click on it and they realise, oh, it's just this for 12 hours. Maybe they skip through a bit, skip ahead. Oh, it's just literally that for 12 hours. And maybe they check to see if it is. Is it this for 12 hours? Is this it? Is that it for 12 hours? Is it just this for 12? And then they realise that, yes, actually, it is just this. That's it. It's that. This is what it is, and it's this for 12 hours, and that's the 12-hour podcast episode. And why shouldn't it be? So, really, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to do a 5.5-hour one. It's less than half the time of the 12-hour podcast. How can that be difficult to do less? And of course, yeah, I have expressed this previously, but if maybe you forgot, maybe you weren't aware. The plan. So what I did in the 12-hour one was I tried to sort of fill as much of a sketchbook as possible. I tried to fill the whole sketchbook, but didn't end up doing that. So I was just sort of trying to fill page after page in a sketchbook over the course of the 12 hours, just trying to do as much as possible in the time given. But what I'm going to be doing this time around in the 5.5-hour episode is spending the whole time working on one single piece of artwork. We're going to be doing, me, is going to be doing a copy of a Slain painting by Simon Bisley. And I'm going to do my best to spend the majority of the 5 hours doing it. It'll probably be closer to 3.5 to 4 hours, because there's going to be art books and comics and stuff in the mix as well. Maybe a separate side thing as well, but I'm not sure about. We'll see. But for the most part, it'll be recreating, fully painting a page of... It'll probably be something from The Horned God. Something from Slain, the Horned God by Simon Bisley. Partly because I've wanted to do that for a while, because I've done a bunch of Lobo copies, studies, if you will. And partly because I think it'll be fun and educational to spend time doing that. So that's, I think it'd be good. I don't need to, but I think I'm going to do a similar thing to what I did in the 12-hour episode, which will be to, just before I record on Instagram, put out a call for, like, if anyone wants me to talk about anything in particular, if anyone wants to ask a question that I can answer in the podcast, just to give myself, because I have things that I can talk about and that, you know, I'll plan to talk about, painting processes and stuff already, but it's good to have extra stuff that I can talk about if I'm unable to keep going conversationally for that long on my own. And then it also adds in a slight level of like audience participation as well, which is sometimes nice. I was going to say which is always nice, but it's sometimes nice. Sometimes audience participation can fuck off, but sometimes it's nice to involve the audience. I'm just redrawing this this of him walking away just as an example of like if I were to draw that panel, it would look more like this, which is to say if I were to draw this panel, I'd draw his ass really prominent, which is what I do in Gun Viking all of the time, whenever possible, really. And why not? Look how juicy it is. It's like squished and folded over. Because here, there's like no ass whatsoever. It's all like the pouches are covering a lot of it. It's sort of smushed in his shorts, and there's just sort of there's no definition. Like, where's his ass? He's got an ass. Fucking where is it? So here, and I've given the bulge between the cheeks as well. Just that extra little, he does good details in his comics, but it's that extra. Just that extra little bit could just make it, I could do it better. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't believe that for a second. By the way, I'm just saying. I was being funny. But I'm excited for the next episode. Partly because it's the 333rd episode, partly because I have, for some reason, denoted it as being a special event, that I'm doing an extra long episode. But also, the painting will be a fun one to do. I still haven't finalised which page I'm doing from Slane, so I'll go through. I've got a few ideas. It might be a cover, it might be a page. I've yet to really solidify my idea on that. But yeah, also I have at least one cool comic kind of to look through, which I'm not going to give any more details on, but it could be quite cool. So I'm looking forward to that. And just in general, it's the filming of it as well is going to be a thing, because again, the whole webcam thing didn't quite work out as I had originally hoped it could. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't as great as it could have been. So for now, still recording on my phone, which means I can record for maybe a couple of hours before the battery runs out and my phone memory fills up. So I'll record an hour or two at a time, probably an hour and a half-ish. Take a break, charge my phone, put the files onto my laptop, make sure everything's ready for the next session. So I'll do that a few times. I'm going to aim to get it all done in one day. The 12-hour was done over the course of about 4 days total, I think. I'd love... At some point, I might be able to, if I'm able to upgrade my recording devices and things, which I'm not sure how realistic that is at the moment. But it would be cool to be able to sit and record, for instance, a 12-hour podcast in one go. The video file from that would be it would be like terabytes of video just for the one episode. But for now, I have to do it in little bits and pieces. So I'll aim to get it all done in one day, which isn't too outrageous. If I start fairly early in the morning, get myself up fairly early, have a decent breakfast, have some energy drinks ready, caffeine pills ready, and then sit down to paint and record at least one session before lunch, and then another few sessions, another couple of sessions before dinner, maybe another session or two after dinner. Like, I could make that work in a day. But it doesn't always go as smoothly as that. Ideas, not necessarily ideas rarely work, or plans rarely work, but they often don't go quite as smoothly as you'd hope. So, and again, this is all just stuff I feel to talk about this stuff, but I don't want to spend the episode talking about this stuff, so I'm just talking about it now while I doodle absolute Batman, because why not? Other things I had to say about guns, there weren't just those two things. I was going to talk about some of the differences between, like, how sometimes it's cool to see guns drawn really realistically. Oh, actually, I think I have an example. That's cool. I can make something actually good. So the guns in this are fairly realistic. It looks like he's used reference for like the handguns and stuff. And then when he's buying the guns in the pawn shop, it looks like these are, you know, that's a fairly regular looking rifle, either maybe an AR-15 or an M4 or an M16. I don't know exactly, but they look fairly well referenced, like real world guns. Sometimes it can be really cool when somebody takes the time, if they're drawing guns, to put that effort in to make the guns look realistic. Sometimes I do that with my comics, with Gun Viking and stuff. But sometimes it can be fun when, when the guns are just gun-shaped objects like this, which I do a lot in my comics too. It completely depends on context, because like in a comic like Body Count, drawn by Simon Bisley, having just like vaguely gun-shaped little boxes that people hold like these is perfectly acceptable, because Bisley makes it work. You will get, maybe not in this comic specifically, but from Bisley you will occasionally get a slightly more realistic looking detailed gun. But I like that a lot of his guns are just gun shape, like a box that you point at somebody and it fires bullets. And there's almost certainly no attention paid to like the slide coming back and the shell ejecting or whatever. You draw shells near the guns, you draw the guns blasting, and that's all you need. Whereas this, even with the Uzis and James Harren's one, those were pretty realistic looking depictions. Like it looks like he either has an Uzi or looked at pictures of an Uzi to make that look realistic. Which is, and it's realistic, but it's like not stylized, but the way he's drawn it with his line work and his inking sort of fits it into the world a bit better, which is cool. So I like that you don't, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I like that I don't have to be a snob and be like, well, the guns in this comic aren't very realistic, but the ones in this comic are, which makes this comic better. Guns can just be fucking whatever. And that's one thing I really, or sort of thought about guns a long time ago, was sometimes guns have like weird just stuff on them, like markings and lines and shapes, and they're shaped in a weird way and they've got added bits. And I used to wonder if stuff like that was, if it was mechanically necessary for guns to look a certain way. And it wasn't until much later that I realised all of that sort of stuff is just style to make the gun look a certain way. Because really, a gun just needs to be a box with a handle and a trigger that a bullet comes out of. But they make them look, tactical or stylish or sleek or interesting or whatever. People design guns, Plus, people that make guns are making a product for people to buy, so they want to make it look like something people want to have and want to buy. I will note actually that I still might do a gun episode, but I will note here that the episode, if I did a gun episode, would have started with me saying I don't necessarily like guns. I have mentioned this before. I'm not happy that guns exist. I think they are used in bad ways, and the fact that they exist isn't good. Like, it's literally a tool that's made to kill. And you can say, oh, but it's for hunting and it's for this and for... Fucking hunt with a knife and an axe. If you're so adamant about hunter-gatherer lifestyles, then hunter-gather with an axe and knives and a bow and arrow. Guns are tools for killing, which I feel like, you know, earlier in my life I was like, yeah, fucking guns, but later in my life, currently, I'm like, I don't know. Also, you know, they are used to aid in atrocities that are currently being carried out in the world. And so sometimes I don't feel great about filling my art with guns because it feels a bit... And it depends on the context, because, like, you can say white supremacists are bad, or why would you put them in a comic? But then when the context is you are showing them to be bad and they are getting their comeuppance or whatever, then, yeah. But then with guns, it's like... as long as you're showing them to be used for good, I don't know. It's a difficult sort of... I'm in a weird in-between space with how I feel about guns at the moment. Because also, when, especially if you're doing like an action scene or something, they look cool and they fit in terms of like storytelling. They provide something. So it doesn't feel like the sort of thing I can just dismiss and say no more guns anywhere ever. But at the same time, it's like I don't want to glorify them too much, but I don't want to. I don't know. And that's partly one of the reasons I wanted to sort of make an episode about guns, was to sort of discuss and explore the idea of guns, you know, and sort of what they are. And I mean, one thing to almost not to praise guns for, but the fact that guns are just mechanical things that you can get, like electric powered ones and gas powered ones and whatever, but the most essential, like handguns and stuff, even machine guns, they require no power to operate, which seems so bizarre to me, that you can just take a gun, put bullets in it, and it just works. Like, it doesn't require a power source or anything. But then you can fire I saw a video. That's another thing I was going to discuss. I saw a video of somebody firing an Uzi pistol, and it just... I always knew sort of, oh, it's 1,000 rounds a minute or whatever, like super quick rate of fire. But then when you actually see an actual video of an actual person firing an Uzi pistol, they were just shooting it like a barrel. When the sound literally goes... like so quick, so many bullets in such a short space of time, and it's just insane to me that, like, that's a thing, and that's just a mechanical device that doesn't need a big battery pack to make it fire that quickly. It's all to do with the mechanics of the thing. It's so insane that happens, that that's a thing. But the thing I was like going to say as well was that it ties into the comics also, is it's another one of those things that's a good example of researching and knowing about stuff really improves your artwork. Like, Simon Bisley was a bodybuilder for a long time, and so he got really good at like knowing how muscles work and how they look, and so his art depicting muscles was much better than it would have been because of that. And if you know how cars and bikes work, if you work with cars and bikes and engines, and you do art, your artwork depicting cars and bikes and engines is going to be phenomenally more like deep and insightful and interesting, because you have this extra level of understanding of what you're drawing, and that's going to come through in the art. It's not going to look like if you know guns, if you know how guns work, if you know the parts to guns and everything, then when you draw a gun, it's not going to look like this. The the knowledge of guns is gonna feed into the art and at least hopefully make the art a lot better. And that's something I really got first-hand experience of that when I grew a beard for the first time. Because old Gun Viking comics, his beard was sort of like wavy, just like it was like his hair, but on his face. But then when I grew a beard, I realised, oh no, beard hair is a lot more sort of kind of wiry and static almost. It's almost like a block on your face. And the mustache grows out and curves in a certain way. It's not just hair coming out of your face, it's a different kind of hair. And it sort of grows in these kinds of ways, in these kind of areas, and would be affected by wind in this kind of way. And so from there, my depiction of beards in like Gun Viking comics, for instance, changed and evolved a lot because of that, which I find very funny and very interesting. And I think it's a perfect example of knowing about shit really affects your art if you're making it about shit. And so I think over the years, I don't really know a lot about guns, but I've picked up a few things here and there, and every now and again some of that feeds into my art and makes it just a little bit better here and there. And so I just happen to have, like, completely coincidentally, I happen to have been sort of looking at guns a bit more lately as mechanical things in terms of how they work and stuff. And just the amount of parts that go into making a gun, the amount of like little weirdly shaped little bits of metal that get bolted together in a certain way with springs and stuff, just in the right places, just to make a gun work. It's so bizarre. Like, you see those exploded drawings where it's got the gun parts and all the bits that go into it all drawn near it with sort of lines depicting where they go. Those are really interesting to see. And I think if you know, like, if you get a better understanding of that and a grasp of that, if you're gonna draw guns, if you must fill your art with violence, then that's kind of shit that can help. Anyway,